In this video, I'm going to go over what I think is the best advice book for playing tabletop role-playing games. So every once in a while I go on Amazon and I just type in TTRPG and I see what comes up. And the last time I did this, to my amazement, XDM was back available. Now this is a second edition. I found the first edition. The first edition of this book absolutely blew me away. I realized after I read it that I was dealing with the magical special sauce that a lot of my favorite game designers use. I haven't heard anyone talk about it. I think it's sort of a best kept secret of the game industry. But anyway, now there's a second edition out. I read the first edition. I could never talk about it on my channel because it wasn't necessarily a legitimate edition. I could never find the actual first edition. Well, that's not true. I found it on eBay for like $1,000, which I wasn't going to pay. So it's been out of print for a while. Anyway, this is the second edition of it. I haven't had a chance to fully read it, but I have gone through it. I have read the first edition. And honestly, I can say hands down that, in my opinion, this is the best guide for playing tabletop RPGs that I've ever read or that I've ever found. And I think that a lot of the principles involved in it are absolutely key to designing a role-playing game. Now, the book itself is kind of silly. It comes across kind of as a joke. And I think that that's meant to be. I think that that is an attempt to disarm people so they don't have to take the game so seriously. It includes kind of a silly role-playing game in itself. It's not a game... Well, it's an interesting game. I would like to try it, but I don't think I would ever play it for very long. It's very simple, very rudimentary. It covers everything. It looks okay. It just strikes me as kind of silly and maybe a little too basic. But like I say, I haven't actually played it. Maybe I'll get a chance. This weekend, I'm going to be finishing off my basic fantasy game, and then perhaps I'll move on to this or try something else. Anyway, enough about that. So, looking at this game, it's fairly thick. Like I say, it's available on Amazon. And it is very, very silly, to say the least. But it covers amazing details and information for gaming. I think that, like I say, I think the silliness disarms a person from taking the genre of tabletop RPGs too seriously. Is absolutely packed with amazing advice for how to play. Now, it is written by Tracy and Curtis Hickmans, which they're very famous, so I'm sure you've heard of them. And it's illustrated by Howard Taylor. He's, I guess, responsible for these great cartoons, which I find extremely entertaining. But as you can see, it kind of gives the silliness of the book. But it's not really silly. The book, it covers such amazing information. I don't want to go through this too closely, but I'll just cover some of the real highlights. But designing for a story. I'll go through the chapters here. So, chapter 1, I mean, this is a great, chapter right here. Everything is for the player. So, I mean, this brings me back to the idea of be a fan of the players. I think that's a rewriting of this chapter. Story is everything. Designing for the story. Fundamentals like go modular for maximum flexibility. Well stolen is half composed. Decisions, scope and scale. Begin with a single session. Packed, absolutely packed with amazing advice. The territory of the table. They'll never see this coming. Extreme NPCs. Some assembly required. The game session beat chart. So the idea that your game has beats and you follow the beat. Where have we heard that? Yeah, but you remember this game came out, the first edition of this book came out a long time ago. It's amazing how many things you'll find in here that you'll find in other games. I think this is really quite a thing, this book. Conflict at the table. All the games a stage. Atmosphere, ambient, explosions? Explosions. Okay. Now, this kind of covers an interesting thing. This is, sort of how to have gimmicks at the table. Not a big fan of that. I get way too distracted. So if there's sounds, if there's lights, if there's crap like that going on at a game table, I'm out. I can either concentrate on the game or I can concentrate on the lights. One or the other. But some people really like that. More power to them. If you like that, you like it, and go for it. Myself, I can't. So, wonders and gods, like contact juggling. Yeah, it covers even magic tricks in here. Like, it really covers a lot of stuff. It's a very, very interesting book. And like I say, it's got amazing, absolutely amazing advice that I just find incredible. And I think the number one thing, the silliness is, the number one advice is keep it simple, stupid. And it's all for the characters. It's all for the players. And I really think that comes across well. It's one of the things that it teaches very well. I don't think overly complex rules. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love them. But I don't think that they're 100% necessary. And this game kind of hammers that home. But I mean, if you like complicated rules, which I do, Rollmaster, for example, you can still keep it simple. You can keep the game beats, the elements of your game simple and easy to understand, even if the rules themselves are complex. And that's something this really hits home, right? This is something interesting that they introduced, and I don't think this was in the first edition. I don't recall it being in there. The X card, which actually I don't really need this, but I'm playing with people that I've known well over 30, 40 years. But I think if you're playing with strangers or relatively new players, that's maybe a good idea. This card that you can throw out when you're uncomfortable with a subject. I don't know. It's possible. But that was kind of one of the ideas that I kind of thought was interesting. But like I say, I'm playing a game right now with people I've known 30 years. Well over 30 years, actually. So, don't think I really need that. Hope not. Yeah, so here, using projection screens and stuff. This really isn't. This is kind of the hocus pocus part of the book, which I'm not really too keen on myself. I'm more interested in the actual game advice. How to handle sessions, how to set your game up, that kind of thing. This is sort of the hocus pocus part. That actually is showing you, how to razzle dazzle your players with magic tricks and stuff like that. That's kind of, I don't think that's really necessary. So there is a lot of fluff in this book, but I think that for the stuff that it gets right, it gets amazingly right. And it's just so worthwhile. Now, this is the actual role-playing game itself. It's very simple. Magic basically can just do anything. I believe it was in the first edition, it just said, yeah, magic, just let players do anything, because, limiting magic, why? It's magic, it's fantasy. Let your players succeed at what they're doing. I don't know if there are any limitations. There are. Yeah, there are. It suggests actually some limitations in this. And I thought that was a little sketchy in the first edition. So the second edition adds, I don't think a lot, but a little bit. Somewhat, like your, how to kind of get different random, how to add different elements using a 20-sided die, odd, even, whether prime numbers, and then whether it's divisible by 3, 4, 5, 6, etc., and using squares. So you could assign different effects to these, whether they're successful or not, or whether they're super successful or not. And it's an interesting system. You have a difficulty modifier, which I'm pretty sure, for example, the Index Card RPG, I'm pretty certain it used a lot of this in here for its design elements. So you have a difficulty rating, and you have your abilities. You have an ability score. Where's a character sheet here? Where are they? I think they're in the back. Yeah. So basically, these are your stats. You've got the 5 stats. Well, not that health and level are really stats, but these are your stats. This is for combat. This is for psych and stuff, and this is for your magic, the WA. Anyway, you add your bonus to that. You try and roll above the difficulty. And then monsters, you just assign a difficulty to them. So say it's a difficulty 12, you roll a 20-sided die, you roll a 14, there you go, you hit it with 14, and you did 14 points of damage. But how well did you do? The DM secretly rolls a 20-sided die. If they roll low, you didn't do very well. If you roll very high, if the DM rolls very high, then you did extremely well. And you just apply those effects to the outcome. And it's whatever the DM decides the outcome should be. And that's basically this whole system, actually. It's very, very simple. And it's not bad, actually. I mean, I like it. I like the idea. I've always done that anyway in my games. I'll very often just roll. I don't usually roll a 20-sided die because they roll around too much and it aggravates me. So I usually roll a 6-sided die. And then I just, assign, okay, on a 1, 2, or 3, so 50% on this or that. And I'll roll a die just for, if I need to vary the outcome like that, I'll use a 6-sided die. But it's really nice to see a book. I've done that forever. I don't know where I picked it up from. I did it way before I even knew about this book, so I don't know where I got it from, but I'll often do that. But anyway, they do that too, which is, I thought that was really kind of neat. It's got some stuff in the appendix. That's cute. In here. I'm just going over it very quickly. I don't want to give out too much of the book, just in case somebody wants it. How to generate stories. It's got a story generation thing in there. It's very silly. This is all upside down. But like I say, it tries to make it silly. Like, that's the point of it. I think to disarm people and give them the idea not to take this stuff too seriously, because by taking it too seriously, you kind of make the game sort of stiff. You know what I mean? It won't flow as well as it could if you don't take it as seriously. You won't have as much fun if you don't take it quite as seriously. In general, some people maybe do have fun taking their games extremely seriously. I don't know. But the idea is that you don't have to take the game that seriously. And that the other thing that this book really hits home is that the rules aren't really that important. And it really hammers home why they aren't that important and how they aren't that important. And I've always maintained that the rules are more... They're more important, in my opinion, to the campaign that you're playing, sort of as a flavor for the campaign, for adding to the campaign world that you're playing, as opposed to the actual game itself. I think that's why we end up with so many rule systems, because you change the campaign, you change the rule system. And people just somehow know that that's how it should be. Although if you state that, they'll argue with you. You could leave a comment down below if I don't really want to. I've already done a video about this. I don't really want to start that over again. And I did state my opinion on it, and lots of people disagreed with me. And for sure, they're welcome to their opinion. Maybe they're right. I don't know. But that's not how I've ever seen it. And it certainly doesn't seem to be how most people play it, because if most people felt that way, in my opinion, they would just buy one set of rules, and that's what they would play for the rest of their lives, and they would just adjust every setting to that set of rules. That's all. I just want to mention it. I don't know if I described it well enough. I'm trying my best here. And but I think it's well worth. I mean, if you're just looking for what I think personally is hands down the best tabletop RPG advice that you can get, This is the game, in my opinion. Or this is the book, in my opinion. Not the game so much, but the book itself. Like I say, it's got some weird... It's got lots of actually silly stuff in it that you can ignore. But it's got a lot of really good advice in it. Yeah, so that's it. That's my video. Thanks for watching, and talk to you next time. Bye.